we have with us the informer, which will probably be our last segment. So we've agreed to kind of do a review, if you will. And I guess I'm looking back at a lot of the questions that I've gotten from folks since the series started and trying to hit them as best I can. And, of course, anything else that I-Man wants to address. But here he is again, and it's been a great time, I think, and I hope he feels the same way. And thanks for coming back.
Yeah, thanks. I've been starting to enjoy it a little bit.
just when you're ready to go.
Right. Yeah, it was little interpretations when I started because of, people not believing. They have their own beliefs, and when they're hit with stuff that I've got and researched, they kind of look down on it and say, no, that can't be. And but I think they're getting some education at least. Whether it sticks, I don't know. But if they have any questions, like you said that they had a lot of questions, but if they really went to the ATG Press and looked in there and looked at all the writings that I did, that will answer a lot of their questions. It's just that they have to dig for it and look for it, which I know a lot of people are lazy. They don't like to do it. But if you sat down and just read everything and absorbed it, it would probably take you a week.
Well, I mean, people do have time. The question is, how do they want to spend it?
Right.
Slogging through probably what is the most daunting language is that of the legal/government combine.
Right.
And it's true. I mean, in fact, I'm going to open up with a question about this also. Can I do that at this time?
Sure.
Remember we went back and forth about the meaning, one of the meanings of the term character. And I said I couldn't find it in the 1828 Webster's, and you said you did find it.
Right.
Now, I want you to understand something also, and this is kind of disappointing to me, that 1828 Webster's is online.
Oh, well, I've got the hard copy. That's where I went to look at it, so they apparently didn't put it in there.
No, and that, like I said, is disappointing because obviously it isn't the same as what you had in your hands.
Right.
And I got to think about that now. So, unfortunately, I guess what's out there is not necessarily an exact lift of that particular edition.
Well, yeah, I would say because the one that I have, I got quite a few years ago by the original fella that did it, and they did a reproduction of it, and it's a regular 8x11, and I'm going to get my ruler right now and measure it.
I would have taken your word for it, but
it's 2 3/4 inches thick, so that's a lot of writing. So when they transposed this or copied it or whatever they did to put it into the online stuff, I can see where they miss or could miss a lot by mistake, or then it could be that they just didn't want certain things put in there.
Yeah. Well, now, and this gets to where I want to go, because you've been in this a long time. And so, and let me ask you, you have an email group, apparently, between James Montgomery. Can you count how many other folks that are of the like mind that you kind of keep abreast of?
5.
Okay.
I mean, that's not much. When you take, there's 280 million people, but out of that 280 million, there's only 192 million that are taxpayers. That's recorded as taxpayers. The rest are kids and older people that don't pay taxes anymore.
Okay.
But if you take, that's less than, way less than 1/2 of 1%. But if you take 5 people, it's like trying to find a piece of sand on the beach from the moon.
Okay. I'm getting back to the terminology, the legalese, or even some of, I would say, more of the esoteric uses of language that is quite common to law.
Right.
It almost gets to the point of being, and call it what it is, so esoteric, it's almost like a secret society's language and signs unto itself.
Yeah, it is, and the only way that you're going to be able to know whether you're talking legalese or not, well, naturally, it's legalese if you're in a law dictionary or looking at a contract or anything like that, or looking at a statute. You automatically look and say, well, that's legalese, you know. But then the people say, well, these are words. Well, no. There are words and there are terms, and the only key when you're looking at a statute, if they use words, they use common everyday words, but they also, when they want that word to mean something else, they make it a term. That is specific. It can't deviate. It can't be included, and nothing like the old argument is, oh, well, includes and including, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the word term, and I say word term, but if you look at terms, there can be no expansion or contraction of the term. It is what it says it is, and nothing can be included. So then if you look at the Internal Revenue Code, and you'll see that starts out in all the definitions, which are the key element, the term, yada, yada, yada. The first two words means the term, you know automatically it is not a common everyday word, even though it looks like it. It is specific to what the law writer wants it to mean.
But that, of course, is never shared with the general public.
No.
And as you said, I mean, it gets to the point where, you know, I mean, we always talked about contracts, and even your insurance, policy.
Insurance is all maritime. I don't care whether it's house insurance, whether it's car insurance, whether it's life insurance. It's all maritime, and it's couched in maritime terms.
Well, it's interesting also because, and it's sad beyond belief, what happened in that Gulf Coast and what could happen here, and that is the insurance companies, defaulting on paying people.
Right.
That's amazing.
Oh, sure.
You know, and they walk.
Yeah.
So, well, getting past the obfuscation, if you will, with regarding to, and we'll go back to the legal situation if we could.
Sure.
But we talk about there are two, well, there's the United States and there's an America, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Not going in so much in depth, and again, let me ask you this. Can people apprise themselves of this whole situation by going to the website?
Yeah, if they know how to do the research, right? A lot of people, they do research and they say, well, they're a researcher. Well, there's different levels of researchers. To be a real researcher like I was in major industry, you've got to understand the whole basics of the foundation of research. And you're just searching, and you're doing whatever anybody searched before and found. You are doing a research on that. And what you have to do is can't be so narrow-minded. You have to go in, and it becomes like a tree. If you search one word, let's say you want to search Republican or Republic. Now you go and find out that in the definition, there is a word called Commonwealth. Now you have to go and say, well, what is a Commonwealth? Now you go and read what a Commonwealth is. And then it leads you to another word that appears in the definition, and now you got to lock onto that word, and it sort of branches out that you've got a huge oak tree where you had a spindly little stump before.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what a real researcher does. He not only researches to prove his case, but he researches to prove it's not. And if you fail to prove and look or research that it is not, you're not a researcher.
Yeah, well, you have to go in, I would assume, with as objective a mind as possible and be willing to take the information where it goes.
Yes, exactly.
I think a lot of us are guilty of wanting to only look for that which substantiates what we believe.
Right. And that's why a true researcher doesn't do that.
Right.
He goes in with the attitude, let's find out where I am wrong.
Okay.
And that's the basics, because that saved me personally many times in the laboratory, but 2 times it didn't. and it wasn't my fault. But I had 2 laboratory explosions in my lifetime, and both times it put me in the hospital. But it was because that even when the PhDs who helped design this particular test that I was doing could not even duplicate what I did to get the explosion. And so that's why whenever I had something to do, and this is all in new territory when you do research like this, you have to cover all bases. And in fact, when I got on the safety committee, someone wanted to do an experiment, and we would be called in to look at what the experiment is going to be. And then he says, okay, if this happens, how are you prepared? And the guy would look at you, well, you didn't research it far enough to find out what would happen if it did happen. And what are the antidote that you got to have? So this is when you go in to do the legal research.